So number one, is tapas culture disappearing? Number two, is far-right politics here to stay in Spain? And number three, is climate change changing the way we live in this country?
Mostly I have the feeling in the last couple of years, post-pandemic, a lot of things have changed and very fast.
So we want to share these changes that are happening in the country with you because maybe you're thinking of living in Spain, of moving here, and it's important to have a clear-eyed understanding of what's going on in the country that you would like to move to. Or even if you're looking to travel here as a tourist, I think some of these things are going to potentially affect your trip and you should be aware of them. And this is going to be a mixture of some data and also our experiences living here as someone, well, a Kiwi who's lived here for 12 years.
And a Spaniard who has lived here pretty much her whole life.
Apart from those 5 years where I took you to New Zealand. And I should say, it is great to have Yoly back by popular demand doing these videos at home again.
Thank you for asking for me, guys.
So let's kick off with something that's really dear to, well, my heart, your heart, I think.
Very, very dear.
And your hearts as well, tapas, right? Tapas bars, the kind of the lifeblood of Spanish communities, or what traditionally was the lifeblood of Spanish communities and still is in a way, but tapas bars, the number of them in the country is decreasing. It has been decreasing for years. And so there are 10% less bars in Spain, traditional bars, than there were 10 years ago. But the number of restaurants in Spain are rising. I get the feeling that after the pandemic, some people, maybe a lot of people, are being drawn to the more calmer environment of having your table, having your space, than the kind of the hustle and bustle of a bar or standing. They're looking for a little bit more comfort. I don't know, this is what I'm thinking. Do you see this?
I mean, we definitely got very comfy, during the pandemic at home. And so that means, I walk past a really busy bar nowadays and I'm like, woof, no way I'm gonna go in.
I haven't got, that worries me, Yoly. I haven't gone that far, but I think there might be something going on there. The other thing is that, look, and we're gonna talk about immigration in this video later on, but there are more international options here in Spain to eat. There's more Chinese restaurants, for example, and you eat Chinese food generally in a Chinese restaurant and not in a tapas bar. People have more options for where to go and eat. And so when you go out, it's like, am I gonna go to the restaurant or am I gonna go and stand at the bar? 40, 50 years ago, it was the bar, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what's happening. Less tapas bars, more restaurants, but what about the mom and pop side of things, the kind of family-run places? Why are there less of those, Yoly?
So family-run bars and restaurants, I guess, are struggling because, one, in rural places, they struggle because there is a huge depopulation of rural areas in Spain. Your one bar that you had in your small village, needs support, right? Needs the support of the people that live there. If no one lives there. So it's actually even a movement amongst rural bars that say that they need the support from the government. So, will be kind of like subsidized bars, which would feel very Cuban. And then there's also the family-run places that are struggling in the cities because the rent prices are going up the roof. That's obviously very, very hard for family-run business to, survive. It actually also leads to more franchises because those big brands are the ones that are going to be able to pay the rent every month. And,
Netflix and chill, people stay at home, so...
We love it.
Yeah, we... do you know what it means?
Of course.
I didn't, yeah.
Okay. You didn't?
Boomer. If that's the crisis of tapas bars, there's also a bit of a crisis in the tapas bars. Someone said it's harder in some areas to go out spontaneously because it's all reservations. So what we're seeing these days is more and more places that once you could just walk into the bar and stand around, find your spot, get your elbows out, more and more places are requiring you to book a table.
Also, you see a lot of queues, of people waiting to just get in, in those places where they won't take reservations maybe, but they still want to control the numbers of the number of people that are inside.
Some people might prefer the kind of the controls, the calmer thing. You said you were a bit nervous. You're a bit nervous when you see a busy bar.
The idea of the hustle and bustle and being really in there and it's really fun. But I don't know, we have a baby, I'm tired as well. And
so disappointed. So disappointed. I married you because you love
all I'm gonna say is that you do need a lot of energy to go in a hustle and bustle ambiance, like really go and go for it.
All right, we got to move on because this is killing me. We'll talk about this later. But for those of you who are still on my side and are actually energized by the hustle and bustle, don't worry, it's still there. And we're not talking about all bars. Not all bars are closing, not all bars have queues, not all bars are things. So one of the things we've always known about Spain, or always heard, is that it has the perfect climate. It's the place you want to go because it's healthy, you're outside, you're loving the sun. It's still true in a lot of ways, but it is changing. What is the current temperature outside, Yoly? Can you check?
What temperature we have in the oven right now? 37 degrees.
This is a shift that's happening that we experience, right? It's obviously in the news with climate change. It's just getting hotter throughout the world, but you notice that in a place like Madrid when the summers have always been very hot anyway. But also what I'm seeing is that, for the first time, people who are looking at coming here as tourists are getting a little nervous. I got a few emails from people saying, oh my God, I'm going to be in Madrid in August. Am I going to die? They're looking at the news.
That feeling of like just, getting out of your house and boom, just being hit by this massive heat wasn't there when I was growing up.
But one thing I always talk to people about is like Spain's climate is not just one thing. There are many climates within this very varied country, right? Yeah. And so the north is very different.
Interestingly enough, northern Spain, of course, just linked to this whole heat issue, is becoming a really popular destination for tourists.
Yeah, and you can understand. I mean, I see this in, first our experience. A week and a half after filming this video, we're going to Galicia for
the nice and cool.
For a whole month because it's cooler up there in northern Spain. It's greener, it's cooler, it rains more. It's still hotter than it used to be, but if right now, for example, it's 38 in Madrid, the place we're going to is possibly going to be about, why don't you have a look? But I'm going to say 26.
26, huh?
I'm going to say 26.
Phew.
27. Is that what I said?
27.
Is that what I said?
I can't remember. I wasn't listening.
You guys be the judge. You know what I said. Hey, real quick. So when you're traveling overseas, or even if you're using your phone or computer outside your home, are you using a VPN? Because if you're not, you're going to want to hear about today's sponsor, ExpressVPN, a service that I use. Imagine you're in a busy restaurant in Madrid and you're using your phone and you're connected to the restaurant's public Wi-Fi. It's kind of like swimming in shark-infested waters. So you see, all your personal data, passwords, and banking info are all potentially exposed, and hackers can make thousands of dollars selling your info to unscrupulous customers. So what ExpressVPN does is it creates a secure tunnel between your device and the internet so that hackers can't get in there. So for example, on the recent video I shot about traveling around on Spanish fast trains, whenever I connected to the train's Wi-Fi, and all the trains had Wi-Fi, I always used ExpressVPN. So I opened the app, I just tapped connect, and I was protected. All my data was protected. Okay, so why not start protecting your online sensitive data today with ExpressVPN and get an extra 3 months for free by going to expressvpn.com/Spain Revealed. Okay, so I have a question for you, Yoly. The year you were born, 1983, how many non-Spain born residents lived in Spain?
I'm gonna say...
As a percentage, sorry, as a percentage.
Percentage. 3%?
0.5%.
Wow.
0.5%. So in 1983, 0.5% of people in Spain were like me, right? They were residents here, but they
weren't like you.
Yeah.
Impossible to be like you.
They were residents here, but they weren't born here. But Spain traditionally has always been, up until more recent times, a country of emigration, a country people, and I'm talking about, say, the 20th century, right? A country that people left.
Yeah.
So after the Civil War, there was a lot of, Republicans, those who were fighting against Franco, went into exile. And then later in the 20th century, between 1959 and 1973, more than 1 million people left Spain to move to Europe looking for work. The economy was really tough.
Yeah.
And I know you have personal experience with this.
Well, my granddad was one of those million people that went to Germany to, get a better life, a better salary, and send money back home.
But now this is a country of immigrants. So right now, or in 2022, the number of residents in Spain who were born outside the country is almost 16% of the population. So just think about that. In 1983, it was 0.5%, and now it's 16%. When you grew up, like there was 0.5% of people from outside the country. You weren't used to seeing.
Oh my God, no! Like
immigrants, right?
The first time that I ever had a classmate who was black, and that was when I was like about 16 years old.
Oh, really?
Already. Yeah.
When you first move to a country, you don't set up a business, right? You don't open a restaurant. You just kind of find your feet and things like that. Yeah. So it's almost like what we're starting to see now, and going from 0.5% in '83 to now having 16%, is people who are, have been living here for a period of time, and they're having the confidence or the wherewithal to start a business, to start a Chinese restaurant, a Mexican restaurant, or whatever it may be. And so we're seeing more options. I mean, just in the dining is one obvious choice. And two people, totally independently, said that it is much easier now in Spain, wherever they live, to find Asian ingredients compared to, say 10 years ago. I think what I kind of made me feel is that when we talk about, oh my God, the tapas bars are closing, it can feel like a crisis, but I guess you can reflect on it as well and say, well, Spain has got more variety now. You can still get tapas, but there's from the fact that there's more immigrants here, it means it's a more varied country, which makes it a more interesting country. But it's understandable when you come as a tourist, what Spain has sold is tapas. It's what we make videos about, right?
Well, exactly.
Drum roll, please, Yoly, because we're going to get into the serious stuff. I mean, it's all been pretty serious, but politics. And people say they often want me to talk about politics. Then other people say they don't want me to talk about politics. But today we're going to give you the facts.
Here come the ins and the outs.
We're 4 days out at the time of recording this. We're recording this the 19th of July, 4 days out from national elections in the country. And so we don't know what's going to happen in those elections. You will be watching this video after the election. So it's a bit of a funny old moment to be recording this.
I kind of like it and read it, and I feel very nervous about it.
So I know a lot of people in this audience, and I see people in the Move to Spain Masterclass who are concerned about the rise of far-right politics, particularly the Vox party in Spain. So since democracy came to Spain in the late 70s, more or less there was 30 years, more or less, and this is a generalization, of really a two-party system. I mean, constitutionally, Spain as a democratic country has always had a multi-party system, but it was really two parties, the PSOE on the left and the PP, the Partido Popular, on the right. And they just kind of went back and forth. But that all changed,
But that all changed dramatically. In 2008, we had a huge economic crisis in Spain, as in the world as well. Plus, a lot of corruption cases that were discovered in the following years. This huge economic crisis translated into the rise of far-right parties in countries in Europe, right? But what happened in Spain is that the power actually shifted to the left instead of to the right. In 2014, Podemos, which is this new left-wing party that was created, became the third viable political party at the polls.
Interestingly, at the same time that Podemos was formed, more or less, sort of just in 2013, beginning 2014, another party was formed, and that is Vox, was formed at the end of 2013. Vox was just like this tiny party. I have the data here that it went, in 2015, Vox got 0.23% of the vote in the 2015 elections. While there was, far-right parties gaining power in Europe, people in Spain would say, no, we're immune to that in Spain because of the experience of the dictatorship and the civil war. What I think is interesting, and this is kind of what we wanted to talk about, is, why this party kind of appeared out of nowhere in the polls later than in some other places, and after a big surge to the left as well. And I was reading about different political analysts, and they were giving different reasons, and they kind of boiled it down to three real things, right? One is that kind of we have a generation, we totally have a generation of people now in Spain who do not remember the Civil War, who don't remember Franco. And so that whole idea that we're immune to the far right because we have had that experience is, that's not in a lot of people's memories anymore. So it's kind of not relevant to them, right? The second one that came up, you mentioned corruption. And so there was a lot of voters for the PP that just got frustrated with the level of corruption in their party. And so we're looking for an alternative. And there hadn't been an alternative until Vox came about. But what I think is most interesting is that going from such a small percentage in 2015, Vox, 0.23 to, 15% in 2019. What happened in there? And the real huge thing that people point to was the attempt at independence and all the stuff that went on there in Catalonia. And that was really leveraged by Vox to draw voters, right? There's a famous saying about from a Spanish philosopher, which is "Me duele España," or "España me duele," and it's like Spain pains me. And I think the experience for kind of Spaniards has been that this is a country that has always had this big struggle between left and right. So what we're living through now, although it has a different face and it feels more dangerous in a lot of ways, is a part of this history, right? There's a part of the history, and it's not coming out of a vacuum.
Exactly, it's not utterly unexpected. It is not. It is.
And so I think maybe because Spain in recent years, particularly around gay rights and gay marriage, for example, and other different laws that have been passed, it has an understandable perception as being a very progressive, liberal country, which it is in a lot of ways. But there is always this tension in Spain, and that is a part of Spain.
In another area where there has been huge change is in feminism and the rights of women. Throughout my lifetime, really. When I was growing up, feminism wasn't. It was a thing, but it was quite niche.
And that was the 80s, right?
Yeah, this was the 80s, and it was just kind of regarded as something that like punk rockers and like people that really were kind of edgy, and they were also feminists, I'm exaggerating, but it was a little bit like that, and nowadays I would say that feminism is quite mainstream, right? Women's roles have changed dramatically. My mom didn't go to university. None of my aunties went to university either. But nowadays, however, my friends, they're all professionals. They've all gone to university, and they're not expected to be stay-at-home moms.
And what about the legal side? Like, I know there's been different laws that have passed.
So there's been, huge advances in terms of the rights of women. There's been laws passed to protect women from domestic or gender violence, new reproductive laws and rights about abortion and so on. And there's also the parental leave that is now 4 months for both women and men. Feminism nowadays is mainstream. You won't find a political party that says that they're not feminists. Even Vox says that they're feminist. They do deny the existence of domestic violence. They just say that it's family violence, right? It's not specific.
So it could kind of go both ways.
Yeah. It's not specific to women. That's what they say. Also, recently there was some poll that said that 20% of young Spanish men think that domestic violence isn't real. So over the last few decades, there's been huge advances for women, but again, we're living a moment of change, perhaps, so these may change in the future, we'll see. We just wanted to give you an update on feminism in Spain too.
We would love to know, do you like this format? Great to have Yoly back in the chair, great to be back in the chair. What topics would you like us to talk about, sitting here in our lounge, about Spanish society and culture? Because we'd love to share more with you, but let us know in the comments below. I know I just stuck my tongue out, but anyway, we better go. We're gonna go and pick up our daughter from the babysitters. All right.
Ciao.
Ciao. Oh, and just quick thing that we forgot to say, that if you're new here and you want to watch more videos of us, me and Yoly, talking about Spain, culture, etc., then I've made a playlist for you. It'll be appearing on one of these corners, and we'll see you over there in a moment. Ciao.